Man, oh man. For those of you who've been worried about the status of Kontakt and more generally Native Instruments, or NI, the future is now upon us. NI is the company that not only makes Kontakt and Komplete, but also a variety of hardware controllers. And I was worried, even as I was making my Kontakt tutorial video from last week, where I didn't know what was going to happen. So I'm going to consider this news auspicious, and I accept that maybe I'm delusional. As you may know, they had been placed in receivership because of their shaky financial condition. Now, I have thought throughout this rocky period for Native Instruments that the possibility that it would go completely away was pretty slim. Native Instruments has a gigantic user base, and it's an essential part of the way a lot of composers, songwriters, and musicians work. In addition to its offerings I mentioned above, NI has also acquired, over the recent past, iZotope, they make RX and Ozone, and Brainworks, which makes some great plugins. The industry as a whole is quite reliant on these things, so, you know. Now, I saw two possible nightmare scenarios. The first was that NI would really go under. I mean, no rescue. That would suck. And, I had a recent client upgrade to Silicon Mac, and her version of Kontakt 5 wouldn't cut it. So I recommended NI. I kind of hated to do it under these circumstances, but I bit my lip and did it anyway. I mean, I mentioned all this to her, but now this music gives me a little more reassurance, although time will ultimately tell. The second, though, is that I can envision a scenario where some venture capitalist firm, like Bain Capital, for instance, bought them, not knowing or caring about the business, leveraging them highly, paying huge sums to their own executives, while picking the bones of NI clean, pocketing the money, and letting them die or exist on life support. Recall, Bain was the company that bought Guitar Center in 2014, and we all know how that went. And this is also a common scenario in this cutthroat world of venture capitalism. But it turns out that the folks that did buy Native Instruments are a company called inMusic, and one would assume they're inMusic. Of course, there are some hurdles before closing, as there always are, but I hear it looks promising. Now, inMusic is a company that has a bunch of brands that they own. And in their catalog, they have Akai Professional, Moog, Rain, Newmark, Alesis and Alesis Drums, BFD, M Audio, and then about 5 or 6 others I didn't mention because I've never heard of them. But it looks pretty good. And on the other hand, I have seen comments, skeptical comments, you might say, on the internet. Who would have thought? And some of those say that inMusic's previous acquisitions have left some of the companies in worse shape than before. Now, there are two sides to this. I mean, one is the part where we don't like the idea of a company that doesn't have to downsize to get their house in order. Unfortunately, in a capitalistic society, we don't always get that wish. But on the other hand, a few commenters thought that inMusic might scrap NI's hardware offerings and just subsume the software. For me, that would be okay, because I don't have any of the hardware. But, on the other hand, let's be optimistic. Maybe they'll integrate the control surfaces into some sort of amazing Akai box, or maybe integrate Akai's tech into NI controllers. Of course, come to think of it, are these companies cordoned off, or will they be integrated in some ways? I don't know. A few of the commenters as well seem to have knowledge about what happened to the other brands that inMusic has acquired and weren't happy about it. Now, one of the brands that is in inMusic's catalog is Moog, and some people were commenting about what happened to Moog. Now, quick story. I walked into the local music store where they knew me well in the 1970s, and they had a keyboard in the back, in the early 1970s, and they had a keyboard in the back that they said could make sounds like an airplane or birds or whatever. That's something you never heard of at the time. They asked me if I wanted to try it, and so I went into the back room, and I just sat there for hours and played around, never bothered by a soul. And then later, as I was leaving, they told me that there was going to be a demonstration of this downtown, and I begged my mother to take me, and she took me. And it turns out it was Robert Moog, and he was demonstrating the prototype for the first Moog keyboards, which I had been playing all day. And that room turned out to be the room where I took my first music theory college course. My mom had to drive me, not to my music theory course, but to the demonstration for the Moog. I'm so happy that Moog still exists to this day, and I'm pretty confident there would have been changes in their products either way. Now, commenters are saying that inMusic has pared down Moog in a regrettable way. So we'll have to see what happens with NI. But at least inMusic is in the music business and not Bain Capital. So while I have you, why don't you hop on over here. This is my next video on Kontakt. I'm going to take you through the multi-Rex interface, instrument interface, and also talk a little bit about how to save in Kontakt or in your DAW. See you soon.